The Darjeeling standoff intensifies as Gorkhaland protesters and security forces clash. Vehicles are torched. Police stations set ablaze after the police raids the Gorkha Janmukti Morcha headquarters, uncovering a massive cache of weapons and explosives. The arrogance is astounding. He arrives 23 minutes late for his flight, and when he was denied a boarding pass, TDP MP Divakar Reddy creates a ruckus at the Visakhapatnam airport and vandalizes property. When the Times Group confronted him, this repeat offender defended his actions. The Supreme Court issues a notice to the central government on petitions challenging the ban on sale of cattle for slaughter. The plea contended that the ban is unconstitutional and discriminatory.
100% rain ready. This is what is the word coming in from the BMC. But of course, our ground reality here, once again, if I can ask my camera person to zoom, this is exactly the situation.
Well, the richest civic body extends its deadline for readiness for the 7th time. Mirror Now's ground check reveals that work in several arterial roads remain incomplete. The BMC has revised its deadline for the 8th of June, from the 8th of June to the 19th of June. 4 farmer suicides in 72 hours in the state of Madhya Pradesh under pressure from moneylenders. Another farmer, Narmada Prasad, commits suicide. A non-bailable warrant issued against Yoga Guru Baba Ramdev for his controversial remark. Baba Ramdev quoted controversy last year for saying that he would have beheaded lakhs of people for refusing to chant Bharat Mata Ki Jai. The state of the education of UP, a school in Rampur turns into a poultry farm during the summer vacations after the matter was reported to the district magistrate. The headmaster has been suspended. A probe has been ordered. But this is what the visuals look like. The classrooms were being used to rear chickens. No clear leads in the case of the murder of actor Kritika Chaudhary. Her ex-husband, an alleged con man, is being questioned by the police right now, but he is not a person of interest, is what the investigators tell us. The Karnataka Lokayukta reprimands the BBMP officials for failing to compensate the family of Shantakumar, the Bangalore civic worker who was washed away in a stormwater drain last month. The Tamil Nadu government announces free education for transgenders in this new university. 1 seat is to be allotted to each person in each course.
A 17-year-old rape survivor denied abortion. Her father moved the Bombay High Court seeking the right to choose, the right to abort, the right to come out of the ordeal that was forced upon her.
The right of a woman and a right of an unborn child, which is to be upheld. Now obviously, the right of a woman, she should have the liberty, whether she wants to conceive, whether she wants to give birth to a child. This is the right of the mother.
The Bombay High Court observed that the 17-year-old rape survivor was 26 weeks pregnant and disallowed the plea, saying abortion could endanger the mother's life.
In our country, after 20 weeks, it's not allowed. So now she has to carry the pregnancy. It's a big mental trauma to her. Such a neglected, unwanted pregnancy land up into many complications for mother also and the baby also.
While doctors agree that abortion at this advanced stage of pregnancy poses a threat, activists argue that a rape survivor's plea to abort a fetus should be dealt with differently.
When a rape victim herself, she had been faced an illegal nuisance on her own body, and she is carrying up something which she is not ready to bear up, and her age is also not that. अब वो बच्चा अगर वो पैदा भी कर ले तो बच्चे को कौन संभालेगा?
A proposal had been submitted to the Cabinet in March 2017 seeking amendments to the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act in order to legalize abortion in up to 24 weeks of pregnancy. So the big question is, should termination of pregnancy beyond 20 weeks be legalized on a case-to-case basis if there is a compelling argument for it? Mirror Now report.
Good evening, viewers, and welcome to the Urban Debate in Mirror. Now, before we get to our debate, I do want to take a moment to thank you. We are on this channel exactly 2 months old. And at 2 months old, we've discovered this week that the response we have received from our viewers is very heartening. We promise you also, in return for this response, that we will continue to pursue questions and continue to pursue issues that bother you as viewers and bother you as citizens. We will continue to demand accountability of our governments and strive to change the way we live our lives in our cities and in our country. I thank you again for your support. I want to move on now to the topic we're discussing this evening, which I believe is extremely important to all of us. The topic of the case that came up in the Bombay High Court that has now been dismissed. I want to take you through what happened to this young person. She's 17 years old, a resident of Pune. One day when she was on her way back home from college, her neighbor showed up telling her that her father is asking for her immediately. He kidnapped her. He took her to Solapur, where he held her captive for nearly 10 months. At that time, the parents say that even though they had asked the police for help, even though they had given the police a lot of information, the police delayed and did not help enough, and their inefficiency costed time. When the victim was discovered and brought back home, she had been raped repeatedly over the course of those 10 months. She was also discovered to have been 20 weeks pregnant. The law in our country is very clear. After someone has passed the first 12 weeks of a pregnancy, an abortion cannot take place without one doctor certifying that it needs to get done. After 20 weeks, it becomes even more difficult and you have to approach the courts. The Bombay High Court in this case has denied the victim a right to an abortion, saying that her life is in danger. The question we're asking tonight is this. Given the fact that the Health Ministry has presented some representation to the government, saying that this gap of 20 weeks was set in the 1970s, and since then medical science has moved very rapidly, it perhaps should be increased to 24 or 26 weeks, should the Bombay High Court have considered, with all due respect, should she now approach the Supreme Court? This is a larger question we have to ask ourselves, because it's not just the life of one young person. She's only 17. It could be anybody. And these are topics we have to discuss. Joining me on the show this evening is Debajyoti Talukdar, who is the victim's lawyer, who joins us from Pune. Yogita Bhayana and Ranjana Kumari are both activists who work for the rights of women. Ramakanth Gaur is a senior lawyer with the Supreme Court. Swapnil Kothari, senior lawyer in Mumbai. Dr. Kiran Coelho is the head of the Gynaecology Department at Lilavati Hospital in Mumbai. Dr. Nikhil Dattar is a medical legal expert. I welcome all of you to this conversation and I thank you for your time. I want to start with Dr. Coelho. Dr. Coelho, do you believe that at 20 weeks, it is too far along for this particular abortion and that the victim's health will be in danger because of the abortion?
Well, actually, it is 26 weeks, is what, not 20 weeks.
Okay.
I think the girl in question has a 26 weeks pregnancy.
Okay.
And the law of the land, the MTP Act, says very clearly that abortion is legal in this country only after 20 weeks. Now, there's been a lot of debate, and we are, most gynecologists prefer that abortion should be up to 24 weeks because of the simple reason that cardiac abnormalities can be made out only after around 22 to 24 weeks. So that's why in most countries abortion is legal up to 24 weeks to carry off this, to cover this gray area where abnormalities and serious abnormalities of the fetus can be detected from 20 to 24 weeks. But this case in question, this poor girl who is 17 years old, and my deepest sympathies to her, she's 26 weeks pregnant, which is far beyond the 20 weeks which is legal. Also, it's going to be very dangerous for a 17-year-old girl to have an abortion at this stage.
Okay.
Medically, for her, she will have a lot of complications, and also legally, it's not permitted. Well, and also as a doctor, I also have to think of the rights of the unborn fetus. Now, she has a 26 weeks pregnancy, which is a live pregnancy, it's a viable pregnancy, and that child also has a right to life.
All right, so, that's a very fair point. The fact that right now at 26 weeks in the pregnancy, we go past what is legally permissible, which is why this particular case approached the court. Let me bring in the lawyer in question, Debajyoti Talukdar, who joins us in Pune. Mr. Talukdar, tell us, what is the plea of the victim right now? And do you plan to approach the Supreme Court?
Good evening. I am actually Mr. Talukdar, not Talukdar. Actually, our plea was to get permission from the court so that she can abort her pregnancy, which is already has gone beyond 20 weeks. Actually, it was about 26th to 27th week. So, court has inclined. Bombay High Court was not ready to give us a permission. After the argument, Honorable Court has said we are not so inclined. So, finally, we have withdrawn our petition. But there was another issue which was involved in the matter, and there was another prayer, that is a compensation. So Honorable Bombay High Court has given us the liberty to file a fresh application for the compensation, because the matter has become so critical only because of the police machinery. It took around 7 to 8 months to trace the victim. So there could have been, lot of things could have been done if they could find her, or some more efforts would have been taken by the police to trace her. The father was running from pillar to post that please do something for my daughter. But my instruction is that the accused father is a politician in that particular area where he was found finally. So maybe because of that some delay has been caused. But now we don't have any time to go to the Supreme Court. So it is a critical state for the girl and the victim.
Talukdar, tell us, what is the
27 weeks. So
what is the mental state of the victim or of the survivor right now? Does she seem ready or able to see this pregnancy through?
She is in trauma. She doesn't want this pregnancy. She's a minor girl, 17 years old girl. How she will have the baby? So she doesn't want it. She wants to lead a normal life. But thing is that how she will go to the college now? A 17 years old girl was regularly going to the college. Suddenly she will come with her baby, and how the society is going to accept her? So her stage is really pathetic. She is in trauma, but the parents are suffering more because they do not know what to do with the child, because she's hardly 17 years old. So she's in a trauma, but now we have no option left.
We have no option left. And I think that really is the crux of the entire conversation, and our phone lines are open to our viewers as well, because I would like you to weigh in. I want to bring in the rest of the panel at this point. Ranjana Kumari, it's a difficult question. What Dr. Coelho told us is very valid if the young lady's life is in danger. But look at the other side of the story. She was going to college. She's 17. She's not even, she's not even an adult at this point. To have to carry to term a pregnancy caused from trauma, and then, what happens to the child after? This is a difficult question we have to answer as a society.
Well, certainly it is difficult, but it has been made more complicated by, A, police action, 2, the court takes its own time before the judgment comes, a week or 2 weeks just passes by, and these kind of situations, the victim cannot wait, and police is also very, very callous about this. If police is active and quickly the case goes to the court, and or of course the appeal to the court to take I do not know how many days it took for the court to really pass this judgment, but certainly this is and also the other complication has been created by the parliament, because the bill is pending, the recommendations are pending for 24 weeks. At least that period is safe period for abortion, and if globally it is up to 26 weeks in some countries like Sweden and other countries. So I think up to 26 weeks it is safe, and many countries are going for more advanced technology. I'm sure doctors on your panel can talk about it. But these complications have been created because of the system, and now for that young 17-year-old will have to suffer, because court cannot take a view other than the law, and that is why it is very obvious that the court has taken the view within the parameters of law that you cannot go for an abortion. And also, if it is danger to the life of the girl and the child, then certainly there is no way any court anywhere in the world can take a decision about the girl losing her life because of the abortion. So these are the complications. But at the same time, I would say that we have to be very, very, we all must collectively campaign to make this, deaf parliament hear our issues and talk about, immediately pass this law. Unless this law is passed, courts cannot really. Earlier also there was another case. I know this must be within last 2 years. Fourth case from Bombay coming that we are hearing about it. So this is something, if we want to resolve it, A, the law has to be passed, B, there has to be a stipulated time period within which police must register the case and take the case to the court, and court must within 2 to 3 days give some judgment about it. Otherwise, what is the point? A week is also very, very long time when it comes to this kind of a situation. But insensitive system we are living in. Nobody is worried about the trauma the girl is going to go through. Neither the court nor the police nor parliamentarians sitting over the law in the parliament, and that is why we are not able to get this issue sorted out. And to make it worse, we feel society will not accept the girl, the family will not accept. After all, and I would say also we have to change this mindset. The child belongs to this woman, and we all have to create conditions where the girl has to accept the child and be.
Fair enough, Ranjana, but will we manage to create those? Will we manage to create that situation fast enough for this girl to be comfortable, given the fact that she feels she can't go to college right now? Changing social mindset is a noble cause, but how long is that going to take? And can this young lady, afford that kind of time? Just to bring our audience up to speed.
Let me say just one more thing.
Yes.
Faye, let me say just one more thing. Let me just say one more thing, Faye, that the college has to be sensitive enough to allow the girls do go to college up to their 7th and 8th month. I have studied in a university where girls did come to college after, because marriage happens very early in every part of our country, and that is where the girls get pregnant and they do come to college.
I think, Ranjana, the point is the fact that it's not about whether or not she can go to college. It's the questions that will arise when an unwed teen goes to college, and an unwed teen who will then be publicly known as a victim of rape. Remember, this is technically a POXO case because the victim is a minor.
It's because of this unfortunate situation.
Yes. And I saw Mr. Talukdar put his hand up. Mr. Talukdar, you wanted to add something? Please go ahead before I bring in the rest of the panel.
Ma'am has rightly said, but my point is practically it is not possible. How can you change a society? She's a 17-year-old girl and she will have the child and she will roam around and she will go to the college. No, this is not possible so easily, because they belong to a very poor family and she may not be in a very good college. It's not very, because economically she is a weak person. And another point I want to raise here, that apart from this, that law has a 20 weeks period limitation, Honorable Supreme Court has granted relief for 24 weeks this year only, I think, in the month of January.
Let me just give out that information. Allow me to give out that information. Yes. January 2017, this year, the Supreme Court allowed a rape survivor to abort a 24-week fetus when the life of the woman was in danger. May 2017, Gujarat High Court permitted a 16-year-old rape survivor to abort a fetus of 20 weeks. June 2016, the Gujarat High Court permitted a 14-year-old rape survivor to abort a 22-week fetus, observing that was in the best. Yes, observing that it was the best interest of the victim. Let's point out that 24 weeks was the case in Supreme Court. We're talking 26 weeks here. Also, may I just take a moment to note that we have teenagers, preteens approaching the courts in our country for permission to abort after rape. What a horrid situation to be in for someone in their teens, for a 14 or a 15 or a 16-year-old. This is the country we're living in. It is really important for us to take stock of the fact that we are not being more serious when it comes to protecting these girls. Dr. Nikhil Dattar is a medical expert, a legal expert. Dr. Dattar, do you believe right now that Parliament should focus on pushing the changes or the amendments to this bill through?
Yeah, as I think everybody knows that I have been behind this whole judicial activism. Practically almost every case that has gone to the Supreme Court, most of those cases I have been involved in some or the other manner. First and foremost, let me completely clarify this particular issue, that there is no question of termination of pregnancy being more dangerous than delivery at any point of gestation at this point of time with the given medical advances that are there. So if somebody still wants to believe that termination at 26 weeks is more risky than delivering, then I think it's wrong. Termination is equally risky or probably less risky than a delivery. That's what is the international stand. You look at the UK law, you look at the China law. The China allows terminations at up to 28 weeks of pregnancy. So are we trying to say that Chinese government is risking lives of their women? There is no difference in the technology, there is no difference in medicine over there. So if at all China can allow it, UK can allow it, various other countries up to 26 weeks can allow it, there is no question that why we should not allow it. That's point number
26
one.
weeks.
Second very important thing is that we are not in 1971. Now the ways the terminations are done are completely different. Third important point is that we are making women victims of the system. It is the law, it is the judiciary, it is the police machinery, and the indifference in them and the delays caused because of them who are being punished. It is the poor women who are victims of the system. So we really need to look at it. I don't think that there's any doubt in anybody's mind as far as any gynecologist in this country is concerned that terminations can be done. They are being done. Today, if at all there is a fetal death, we do termination of pregnancy by inducing labor. If at all there are problems like bleeding, leaking, etc., we do terminations irrespective of the gestational age. Right of unborn fetus, according to me, does not exist as far as we are concerned. We are extremely clear legally, and we have the same standpoint as that of UK, that the question of unborn child's right comes only into play only after the child is born alive on this earth. Till that time, it is the mother's interest and only the mother's interest which has to supersede at any given moment of time. So we need to collectively understand the medical facts, also align our legal facts with them, and change the law of the land, because that's the need of the hour.
Swapnil?
Yes, I entirely agree with what this gentleman has said. Yeah, what Dr. Dattar just said. The fact is that if there is a medical fact that there are two countries which allow up to 28 weeks or 26 weeks, and I'll talk about India now. The Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act section explanation 1 to section 3 clearly says that when it comes to a question of a rape victim, then her mental anguish and everything has to be taken into account. So she should be permitted. In fact, the Supreme Court has permitted a 24-week fetus and to be aborted. And you pointed out two other judgments of the respective other high courts of Gujarat, etc. And I think Bombay High Court also. And in fact, there was a judgment by the Bombay High Court in 2016 itself, which permitted, which in fact was pro-choice, that women should be allowed to terminate their pregnancy, and whether single, unmarried, married. And as a matter of choice. So because it then gives credence to the fact that you have a right to privacy under Article 21, and the fundamental right precedes over all the other laws, and in fact that precedes over the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act. But now what the Bombay High Court has done, it has taken a little bit of a U-turn there from most of its judgments, and it should have taken the Supreme Court judgment into account. I would really be interested in asking the lawyer for the victim that as to why you did not approach the vacation bench of the Bombay High Court maybe 3 to 4 weeks earlier. So maybe with that clock ticking and those provisions of Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act hovering, like a sword of Damocles, maybe you should have approached it a little earlier and, tried to get that within the framework and push the High Court. And I don't see any reason why you should not be approaching the Supreme Court overnight and maybe try to get this done tomorrow itself in the morning or day after tomorrow at best. So I don't see any reason, and the Supreme Court will hear it.
Mr. Talukdar, because the victim was recovered from her captor at 20 weeks.
No, it was already 22nd week, I suppose, because she was traced very late, after about 7 months. And her father had approached me very lately. And when he came to me, immediately we have filed the petition. Right. But unfortunately, vacation was going on, and we have mentioned it. And that day, division bench was not there on that particular day. And when the first day, the 5th, we have mentioned the matter, and it was kept on 6th. But so finally it has come to this stage, and it was not accepted by the Honorable High Court.
So maybe,
but where we felt it's already 27 weeks. Then we again will go to the Supreme Court.
Right. So if you were within the periphery of that 24 weeks, maybe the Supreme Court judgment, which was there on the 24 weeks fetus where it was allowed to be aborted, would have been binding on the Bombay High Court.
Let me also bring in Ramakanth Gaur, senior lawyer, Supreme Court. Ramakanth Gaur, does it make sense right now for the victim's lawyer to approach the Supreme Court as quickly as possible and perhaps seek relief?
See, once he has admitted the fact that once he has withdrawn the petition, he has relinquished his right. So, I don't know whether he would be filing an affidavit that the bench has refused to grant him relief, and that is the reason he withdrew this petition, or whatever the circumstances. But the circumstances does not appear to be so straight here. You see, as far as Dr. Coelho's opinion is concerned, and her opinion stands at that attains the supremacy as far as this panel is concerned. She says it would be very risky for the victim. So, Bombay High Court must have examined that. Not only that, Bombay High Court must have examined the facts of the case. It is very simple to say that it is a rape.
Yeah, Mr.
A
Gaur,
woman who is, or a girl who is eloped as alleged by the other side.
No.
And residing at somebody's place for 7 months.
I do not permit any of my panelists to question. I do not permit any of our panelists to question victims of rape
objection to the word
on this panel. The question we're asking is, should the courts allow this particular survivor of rape permission to abort the fetus?
Mr. Gaur,
it is irrelevant what the other side is arguing.
Correct. Just 1 second. Let me just counter this point. Mr. Gaur, as far as the Supreme Court is concerned,
arguments which would
Mr. Gaur,
just examined.
Mr. Gaur, I understand the High Court would have examined, the Bombay High Court would have examined all the facts, all the law, the entire scenario which was prevailing, the medical facts.
Particularly about the health position of the victim.
In fact, let me just make one thing clear to Mr. Ramakanth Gaur. Mr. Gaur, I just want to put this on record as to where we stand, or where I stand personally. On one hand, we're talking about this 17-year-old's choice to be able to abort a fetus that she doesn't want, that she believes came out of trauma, that she believes will impede her ability to have a normal life. Now, whether you or anybody else believes she eloped, and even if she did, why shouldn't she have that choice? Why shouldn't she have a choice to decide what she wants to do with her own body? Whether she eloped, whether she was raped, whether she was raped repeatedly and held captive for 10 months, or she went into her own free will, none of that changes the fact that she doesn't want this child, that she doesn't believe she's ready to care for this child. And that's the question we're asking. We're not asking for a character assessment of this young person. We're not asking for whether or not she enjoyed it. We're not asking for whether or not it was consent involved. We're asking for today the fact she doesn't want the baby, she doesn't believe she has the ability to raise this child or have this child or look after this child. Shouldn't she be given the choice? That's the question we're asking. So it is about health, it is about mental trauma, it is about the mental health of the victim in question, and whether she'll be able to give this child a proper life. How does eloping or not eloping have anything to do with it, Mr. Ramakanth?
We are discussing about a judgment passed by a division bench of the Bombay High Court. And the High Court's wisdom cannot be questioned in this
They can't use such a wisdom on this case. It's a POXO case. They can't use any wisdom of that sort which you are saying she eloped.
That's not.
You cannot question the wisdom of the judges.
No way. Okay,
let me just one second. Yogita, in fact, Ranjana made a very good point, Yogita, and I'm going to come to Yogita and Ranjana, who's a criminal psychologist, and I want to understand from her where she thinks the victim's mental health would be right now after all of this trauma. Yogita, Ranjana made a beautiful point. We are not questioning the wisdom of the courts. We are questioning the wisdom of Parliament that has before it a written appeal from the Minister of Health asking Parliament to amend this rule that was written in 1970 when gynecology was not where it is today. Yes, I'll come to you. When gynecology is not where it is today, it has very clearly said, please increase the gestation limit from the present 20 weeks to 24 weeks for specific categories of women, including survivors of rape.
From the point of view of women's rights.
Yes, so Yogita, it is not about questioning the wisdom of the courts, it's about questioning the wisdom of the law as it stands right now and the people who make the law. Yogita.
Absolutely, Faye. This is very relevant to this case. First of all, we have to focus on not only her physical health. Court is only focusing on a physical. Look at the trauma she is going through. Her mental health is also equally important. I think more important. Even if she delivers the child, she'll not be. As I agree with the earlier doctor who was there, he said that very correctly, that even if she delivers, her life is more in danger rather than delivering it, not delivering it. I mean, getting it aborted. So we need to have the clear differentiation. And coming back to him, I think this is the problem. Even with the cops, you know, first thing they said, wo elop ho gayi. High Court will never go by that wisdom ki wo elope ho gayi ya nahi elope ho gayi. This is the first problem I face when I go with teenagers. They are missing. When we approach the police also, this is the same answer they get. That is the reason they don't do proper investigation. They don't even want to find the child. And in this case, there is a very big lapse, which is they did not even do proper medical examination when she was survived. So they should have done a proper medical examination on her. If they would have found it then and there that she is pregnant or she has conceived, they would have done the rightful things right there. I mean, this is a total lapse. This is a classic case of ignorance by the cops, by the court, by everybody, by the medical. I mean, after Nirbhaya case, the clearly guideline says that what a rape survivor has to go through following steps. I think it was not done in this case because she was not even done she was not even taken up with a proper medical examination.
As the lawyer suggested, the matter was mentioned before the Bombay High Court on 5th and the court took cognizance on 6th. So that's the sensitivity with which the court dealt this matter. So we cannot blame the judicial system just for the heck of saying that. Court was very sensitive. The matter was mentioned on 5th.
Absolutely.
The matter was taken up for hearing on 6th.
What decision they make, that matters a lot. I mean, what decision they make.
Mr. Talukdar, go ahead.
That matters.
Mr. Talukdar, go ahead.
That matters.
May I say here something? Yeah, I don't know why we are discussing on the intention and the wisdom of the Honorable Bombay High Court. The matter was we don't have the judgment also. On what basis we are discussing? But it is correct that law needs to be changed. If the judgment is bad in law, then we could have gone for a appeal in the Supreme Court. But now position is thus that he doesn't want. They are already have suffered a lot.
Accepted the judgment.
Already suffered a lot.
Accepted the judgment.
Instead of running for this, they want to take care of the girl.
Correct.
No, I'm not accepting, but I'm withdrawn it.
The girl has to be taken care of. Compensation has to be paid to her.
Mr. Talukdar and Mr. Gaur.
But I cannot criticize the judgment or the...
No, we are not criticizing Mr. Talukdar.
Nobody is criticizing the judgment.
Mr. Talukdar, we are not criticizing the judgment.
One second. To all of the lawyers on the panel, I do not want to make any of you nervous. Nobody is criticizing the High Court. Nobody is criticizing any of the judges of the High Court. Please calm down. We're looking at the law. We're bringing up the facts to public knowledge that this law needs to be re-looked at by the parliamentarians who make the law. Because of the law, we now have this case of this one person who we believe perhaps is going to have to go through a lifetime of extended trauma because the law was not updated when it should have been updated. And it says very clearly in this particular medical termination of pregnancy that Parliament is allowed to change these rules when they see fit. Parliament just never got around to doing it. And that is the problem. Swapnil Kothari.
Yeah, see, to both the lawyers on the panel, my suggestion is very simple. We are not questioning the wisdom of the court. May I finish, please? May I finish? Ranjana, one minute, please. May I finish? We are not questioning the wisdom of the court.
The point is that, first of all, can I just complete 1 minute? Give me half a minute. No, wisdom of a court can also be sometimes misguided, misled. You say courts are very important judicial systems, but we have seen cases after cases where the judgment has come which is not really justice, but which has really miscarriage of justice. This is not because of the way evidence is produced, because of the way cases are being dealt with.
Okay, so hang on. Let me just bring in one point. Let me just bring 1 second. Ranjana, if I may, just 1 second. The lawyers, just 1 second. We're not arguing the Bombay High Court. I want to bring in Anuja Kapoor. Anuja Kapoor is a criminal psychologist. Anuja.
No. I think gentlemen are saying that repeatedly it has been said that petitioner has accepted the judgment. What is the option left for him? What is the option left for him?
Sir,
what he can do? He's a poor person. He can't go to the Supreme Court again.
Very quickly,
Mr. Talukdar, my point is very simple. I am not talking of the... You withdrew the petition. You withdrew the petition because the victim...
We are very happy with the judgment.
Let me finish, sir. You withdrew the...
You accept the judgment? What
yes, fine. You withdrew the petition because she accepted the judgment. Yeah, that is fine. But my point is, for the benefit of the viewers, that you can still, if you can still try to convince her and approach the Supreme Court, even if you withdrew the petition under Article 142, the Supreme Court has plenary powers to do complete justice if it feels that the judgment was erroneous. That's the point.
Okay, I understand what all of the gentlemen of the law are saying to our panel at this point and to our viewers. Anuja Kapoor, who is a psychologist, I think this is the point really. Here is a 17-year-old who was kidnapped, repeatedly raped, held captive for several months until the police found her. She was discovered to be pregnant. She was then told that she could not abort the fetus. She then had to approach the High Court. She is now having to approach the Supreme Court. How much more is this girl going to go through? And her lawyer is very clearly saying she's had enough. She doesn't want to be put through anymore. It's very easy to sit here in a studio and say, yes, we should approach the Supreme Court tomorrow morning and appeal to the Supreme Court to hear this case as soon as possible. Maybe this young lady has just had enough.
So now let's put it this way. We have to understand clearly now. Now is the time we think about victimology. I've been speaking about this for such a pretty long time. Let's talk about victims. Let's talk about victimology. We all are talking about the law. We're talking about offenders. We never talk about victims. We never about what they survive into. So let's look at the law. High time. Let's look at the law through the victim perspective. So nobody is talking here. I'm all not listening anything related to victim perspective. So this is very much true that we need to pass the laws which are related to victims, not offenders. They are keeping on talking about where the offenders need to be rehabilitated. What about the victims? We never even give them the counseling. We never give them any rehabilitation. We never ask them, how do you survive the pain? And this is what is the class. So you can see there is a classic example again. So the problem is to understand the victim perspective. Let's talk about victim rights. And when we talk about victim rights, this thing should have never come up. So we need to change the law. How laws, it is not that it is not written that the laws cannot be changed. It can be amended. So why we are not amending it again? Somewhere down the lane, it is related to a women thing. So and our parliament is very touchy about women's. They don't talk about women's. They don't want to talk about it. So again, so we're not only questioning the judiciary, we're questioning the parliament will also. So we have to talk about it, how to change the law so that there is a change can be taken. When we can do the demonetization in one day, why are we not doing the laws which are related to women in one day?
Yes.
Why can't we take an emergency setup and we can talk about it?
Yes.
So why we prolonging it?
That's a fair question. And you know, the other thing I want to put forward is that when this child is carried to term and when this child is born, isn't this child then also a victim of this situation? 1 second, Anand Iyer is on the phone line. I want to bring in one voice. Anand Iyer, go ahead.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, I just want to ask all the panelists. I was just listening to all of you.
Yes.
See, let us put us for 5 minutes in the skin of the victim and understand what the plight she will go or trauma she will go for the entire life. And suppose if court doesn't permit her abortion and the child gets delivered, or the child will go for the entire life. And who will take care of the child? Is the court is going to take care of the child, or is the parliament is going to take care of it? Nobody is going to take care of it. And what will happen in the society now? I just want to ask the panelists.
Who's going to take care of this child? I want to bring in Dr. Nikhil Dattar. Dr. Nikhil Dattar, the other person to consider in all of this is a child who will be born in a family that possibly doesn't want it, in a society that questions it, and a mother that sees trauma every time she looks at it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's absolutely no question on the fact. I mean, I completely agree with Madam Anuja, who said about the victim. The laws of the land have to be women-centric. The laws of the land have to be citizen-centric. If we all agree with this fact that it is going to be a hell for the mother, the young girl, 17 years old, and the baby both, and more so for the mother, then there is absolutely no question why should we have so much of delay in making a change to the law of the land. So it is my earnest appeal to all the members of the parliament, more so the women members of the parliament, that they should really consider this particular issue more emotionally, sympathetically and empathetically. We as gynecologists who stand with our patients all throughout, the women all throughout, we really see what they suffer, what they go through in such kinds of situations. It's absolutely extremely difficult to carry a pregnancy from 26 weeks to 40 weeks with this kind of an ongoing psychological trauma. When an unwanted fetus is increasing day by day in its size, when the chances of you, because of the stress, requiring or giving rise to high blood pressure, diabetes, etc., are on the rise.
Let me also bring in Dr. Coelho. Dr. Dattar, let me bring in Dr. Coelho, who disagreed with you in the beginning of the show. You disagreed that a termination after 24 weeks could be safe.
Well, it's not that it's unsafe. You can terminate right up to 28 weeks, but with a 17-year-old girl, even with advances in science, there could be complications, there could be increased morbidity. Yeah. But also, as Dr. Nikhil mentioned, that there is no right to the fetus. I feel that
the same is the true with delivery also.
I know, but this child also has a right to. We are looking at only the right to life of the mother. What about the right of life to that child who is otherwise normal and also has a right to live? So the mother could go for counselling, and she'll require a lot of it with deeper sympathies. And the child could be given up for adoption. There are so many people in this country who want to adopt.
Should have been left to the mother. It is.
That's a fair point. Isn't that a choice that should be left to the woman?
She has a right.
See, you know,
she has a right to conceive, or whether she wants. Yeah, left to the woman.
Isn't that a choice that should be left to the woman? What she wants to do with her own body? Here we have a case of the fact that the law and the courts and various arguing legal minds are deciding what this young person is going to have to go through for the rest of her life, and what happens to her body and what her body is used for, which in this case, a vessel for a child she doesn't want. Anuja, go ahead.
So what I would like to put it through it this way, that let's think about it. We are all panelists are educated, learned counsels, and we just want to understand that.
Yes.
Please, ma'am, let me speak. Just give me a second. So what we are trying to understand is, we're talking about the child, okay? We're talking about the right of a child, and we're talking about the right of the mother. Now, let's talk about it. When we talk about the right of the right of a child also requires love and affection. All right. So when the child is born, you know, that connection throughout from the mother womb to the child, when it is there in the stomach, is not feeling. So, you know, that thing needs to understand. The psychology doesn't start when it starts after the birth. No. It starts when you are inside the mother womb also. So it is very important to understand. She will not eat food. She will not help. She will not help herself. She would like it could abortion can be done. So what we can be talking about is, it is not about the child, it's not about the mother. Let's understand the fact that it is very much in conscience that we have to understand that the rape victims should not be allowed to carry the children.
All right. Ranjana, you're saying not to be allowed. You're saying not to be allowed. Again, that circles back to whether or not an individual should be given a choice. Ranjana Kumari, it should be it should be the individual's choice.
Let the woman decide. If she's a major, if she's a minor, it's absolutely a different case.
Can I say something?
Ranjana, please go ahead. Ranjana.
We have heard you. Can I say something?
Let the woman decide.
Yes.
Who
I
are we to decide?
Number one, I have serious objection Please give me half a minute.
Go ahead,
please.
Ranjana. Go ahead, Ranjana.
I'm saying I have serious objection to using the word elopement. Okay, I have serious objection to using the word elope for a girl who goes with any friend, any man, anybody who she falls in love with, and she goes and starts living with the person, and the person is equally responsible for start living with her. So please don't call it elopement. The girl eloped, almost to put all the blame on her, number one. Number two, I think it's very important for all of us to understand that the women's rights, the fundamental right about women's right is that she has a right over her body. She wants to produce a child, she doesn't want to produce a child, has to be decided by her and should be her own wish and will, because it is her body which is and her mind which is going through all this. So I think there is absolutely inalienable right of a woman over her body, and that needs to be understood and protected. So whether she is married, whether she is raped, whether she is, whatever, if she doesn't want the child, she doesn't want the child. So please, let's understand this in the broader perspective, and not just put every time a woman to, poor woman, she's to go through this, go through that. No, don't do that. Don't do, it's her right over her body which has to be protected.
Okay, listen to me.
This parliament has to be pushed.
Let's talk on this way.
Parliament has to be pushed to pass the bill.
Parliament does have to be pushed to pass the bill.
Let me put it this way. Let me put it this way for you. Okay, it means if you talk about right, it means she will never come to the court only the first glance only. Okay, she's coming to the court and complaining only because then she doesn't want the baby. Makes sense, right? Why do we go to a court? We only go to a court for complaining. That we don't want to keep a baby or whatever case is, we go for a court for the compensation or whatever relief you talk about. If you will not complain, you will not go. So what is about going to the, the right and all? I understand that. I'm totally with the child. I'm totally with everybody. But the thing is, you will go to court for that termination only, na? So that is what
let me just bring in one more person on the phone line. Musa is on the phone line from Bahrain.
Because the law restricts the termination.
Yes, the only reason she has to go to court is because the law that was written in 1971 still believes that a termination of pregnancy after 20 weeks is unsafe. All right. One second. Musa is on the phone line from Bahrain. One second, Ranjana. Musa, go ahead.
Right. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have been listening to the panelists and quite, pained by the survivor's problem about first being raped and then again she has to go through all this
yes.
legal system. But see, we have to feel sorry that after so many years of independence, we have poor quality parliamentarians. Every time they discuss unworthy things and they take stand for unworthy reasons. So why do we blame? We have to blame ourselves. We bring in, unprofessional parliamentarians who do not look into the changing world, the requirement of the people on every occasion.
Right. So it's important, you're making that point again, that women's rights and in this case amendments to these archaic laws need to be put on priority and need to be looked at immediately. Swapnil, go ahead.
Yes, Faith, the fact that this kind of a judgment perpetrates two horrors. One is that there is a rape victim, and then secondly, that what has happened is that there is an unwanted pregnancy and she has to go through with it. So this is something which the judgment suffers from, and it needed to be rectified. It needs to be rectified at the earliest by the Supreme Court by establishing a quietus on this issue, or by the legislature in taking the amendments into account in consonance with the medical developments today, and try to, when Article 21 has been enlarged to include so many things, right to dignity, right to privacy, right to good roads, the reach and the breadth has been expanded enough, then why not right to choice? It has to be pro-choice. Why are the women's rights not being considered by the parliament itself? 1971 Act, I do not know whether it's been even amended even at all in the past 46 years or so. So it needs that amendment at the earliest to incorporate the right to life and the right to choice under Article 21, which so very much these women deserve, especially the women who suffer from these kind of horrors.
Absolutely. And I have this question to ask, and I'll take it over to Dr. Nikhil Dattar. Dr. Dattar, do you believe that when and this is something that Yogita brought up.
One aspect, may I say?
Yes, I'll come back to you. Just let me finish my question. Dr. Dattar, do you believe, like Yogita quite rightly brought up?
May I say something?
1 second. Let me finish my question, please. Dr. Dattar, like Yogita brought up, do you believe that if the case in this particular, like it is here, is regarding a minor, which is rape of a child, effectively, it's POCSO, should the court consider this differently and not purely as listed out under the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act?
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. According to me, I mean, if the court, since the court has got the required powers with various articles, ultimately fundamental rights are supreme, and hence if at all there is a particular law which is in contravention with the fundamental rights, then the court of course should look at it. If we really look at the reasons and objects of the law, I mean in 1971, when at that point of time termination of pregnancy was an illegal activity, the whole reason for which this whole law was drafted was to help the women. That's the reasons and objects of the law. But if this particular section of the law is actually not helping the women, then it's against the objects and reasons of the law itself. And that's why there is a reason for the court to look at it, and that's why there is a reason for a change or an amendment to the law. And let me just add one small thing from the previous discussion, that if we are talking of rights of unborn fetus, then technically speaking on sonography at 7 weeks, that's less than 2 months, we are able to see the life, that is beating heart, in a sonography. So are we trying to say that a 7-weeker, 8-weeker fetus which has a beating heart, does that fetus also has a right of survival, and right of that unborn fetus has a right of survival? And if yes, then why are we having it up to 20 weeks? So what suddenly changes after 20 weeks? Somebody who is 19.6 weeks and somebody who is 20.1 weeks, is there any change that takes place because of 2 more days? Answer is no. The truth is that in 1971 there was an absurd arbitrary limit of 20 weeks which was laid down. There is absolutely no medical reason for it why it should be 20 weeks. I have done enough research. I have gone up to the parliamentary archives at that point of time. This was a complete arbitrary limit of 20 weeks. Nothing changes after 20 weeks. Whatever is at 19 weeks, the same is the story at 21, same is the story at 22 weeks. So this sanctity which is around this 20 weeks limit is absurd completely. Maybe in 1971 it did hold some kind of a truth because of primitive medical techniques.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't hold any more truth.
Absolutely.
And hence the courts, the parliaments, and we all need to make a change to the law.
Yeah, and that this sanctity has been dispensed with by many courts, as Faye pointed out in many of the judgments.
And I want to bring in Yogita Bhayana. Yogita, we have another very serious problem, like you pointed out earlier. When there is a rape survivor in this country, there is a problem with how we treat rape survivors in the country, how the hospitals approach them, how the hospitals treat them, how doctors treat them, how police officers treat them. And this is part of that entire problem, isn't it, Yogita?
Definitely, the very problem is that only the way they treat the case in the police station, then at the medical examination, and then the investigation, everything. I mean, it sums up to that only. So, but coming back to the larger solution, we are right now talking about everything lands up in Parliament, and definitely it should zero down to the Parliament. So, I have a very strong suggestion, because you are the change maker. Your channel has been raising women issues so well. So, I would like to suggest one thing, that we have monsoon budget, monsoon sessions, we have budget sessions, then we have winter sessions. Why not every year we have women's session where these kind of laws are amended and they are brought up to the table. We can talk about them, discuss, and definitely we activists also can lay down the suggestions for them. And parliamentarians should take women cause very seriously and have a different session every year for only on women. I think that this is where the solution lies. Otherwise, we'll keep debating every time and now, and we'll not get to the solutions. Everything lies there. Like, I think we need to bring to that table.
And I think to add on to it, I think we need more of we need doctors in that panels, we need psychologists, we need counselors. We need to understand that what the women is going through and what are the rights, and that should be also taken up at that time of a session. Yes.
So, Ranjana, do you agree a women's session of Parliament where bills pertaining to women's rights are looked at and passed on priority?
Well, Faye, I think I would like to live in that dreamland, but you know that we don't even have more than 47 women in the parliament. No political party gives tickets to women to contest election. The pathetic situation is that for 17-18 years we are fighting to get women's reservation bill passed. You will be shocked that no more our budget talks about gender budgeting. We only spend 1 to 2% directly on women. We do not have, and also Women and Child Ministry has the smallest budget for women. Most of the budget goes for ICDS. So actually, if you really look at it and think about it, certainly not only a parliament session, but I think that these parliamentarians' eyes and ears will have to be opened to the kind of situation women are suffering every day. Safety, security, employment, anywhere you look at, any side you see, there is problem that women are suffering. But then only they need the women's vote. Women have to also become smart, and when they come for vote, they also must question, what are you doing for us? Do you know the whole parliament does not discuss? I have done this content analysis of the parliament proceedings. Not even 4% time is spent on women's issues or women's concerns. So this is the parliament we elect every time, and really I'm sorry to say this is the state of affairs. I totally agree that we should have a session, but who is really worried about?
I'm going to give the last word to Dr. Nikhil Dattar, who has fought for these rights to choose for women for a very long time. Nikhil Dattar, I appreciate your fight, and I appreciate the time and energy you've given to this battle. What is it you think our country needs right now on priority in terms of rights for women when it comes to abortion?
So I think what I would simply quote is what I have quoted and spoke about in the SLP, the special leave petition, which is pending in the Supreme Court from 2008. That's like 9 years from the time it has been kind of filed. And in this petition, the demands that I have made are, number one, that you raise the limit from 20 weeks to 24 weeks, number one. Second demand is, beyond 24 weeks, let there be specific hospitals which have got specific committees who look at the situation and who empower women to make correct choices whether they want to continue or not continue, and support the women so that the choices are executed correctly, so that on one hand there is no abuse, there is no misuse of law, but on the other hand, it is the women-centricness of the whole system which needs to be brought in, because ultimately it is the woman and nobody else but the woman who has to take the call, who has to be supported, and it is her final wish to decide on this particular point.
Very well said. Mr. Talukdar, you wanted to say something? Go ahead, I'll give you 30 seconds.
May I say something? Yeah, one aspect is, I think we haven't discussed. That is the role of the relatives and the parents of the boy, the accused. Every time, isn't the duty of the parents that one minor girl has come your home, you should say, just take her back to her parents or inform the police, because somewhere the parents and the relatives were there are many cases, I just came to know, in the same police station there are a lot of girls are missing.
Okay, we're running out of time. I just want to wrap up with this one thing to our parliamentarians and to the women who are watching. It is absolutely atrocious that in the year 2017, so many years after independence, we're having a conversation about how we would like our parliamentarians to consider our rights. We are half this country, half the votes that you quote every 5 years. In the early 1900s, across the world, women fought for the right to vote. In this country, we've had the right to vote equally since independence. But I think it's time now that we hold back that right. We hold back our votes this time and say we will not vote for you unless the women's reservation bill is passed in Parliament. What is the point of allowing us the right to vote like you do so generously without giving us the tickets, without giving us the representation, without even assuring us that 1/3 of Parliament will be reserved for a set of people who form half the population? Or we would form half the population if we weren't killed because we were girls before we were born. It is high time that we realize that we don't need women-centric laws. We are citizens. We need citizen-centric laws because we are citizens. We are half this country. Why is it that we have to look at life as something that is for all of India and then perhaps in our free time consider something that is good for women? Are we not India? Don't our rights matter? Why is it that every time something is tabled in Parliament that has something to do with women, it is cast aside so you can create a ruckus about something else that you think is more important? Women are important and women are here. And it is high time you took them more seriously. There are laws that were written in the early 70s that need to be re-looked at. And Parliament that needs to do its job. Thanks for watching.